Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Former FBI Director James Comey was arraigned today. Kash Patel outlined how the FBI will dismantle Antifa. The National Guard arrived in Illinois, and President Trump plans to personally attend the peace talks in Egypt. Okay, let's get into it. Former FBI Director James Comey pled not guilty today in Virginia federal court to charges of making false statements to Congress and for obstruction of a congressional proceeding. During court today, U.S. District Judge Michael Nachmanoff granted Comey a jury trial starting on January 5th, 2026. The Department of Justice said that they would not be seeking Comey's detention ahead of the trial, so the judge placed Comey on a personal recognizance bond. The Justice Department was presented in court today by Nathaniel Lemons, who is a federal prosecutor. He normally operates out of the Eastern District of North Carolina, and Comey was presented by former federal prosecutor Patrick Fitzgerald, who currently lectures at the University of Chicago School of Law. Comey was indicted by a federal grand jury last month for allegedly lying to Congress when he denied authorizing FBI leaks to the media. Yesterday, Senate Republicans confirmed more than 100 people who were nominated by President Trump to fill vacant government positions. The Senate approved the nomination by a 51-47 party line vote. This was the second mass confirmation of appointees after approving nearly 50 in mid-September. Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso hailed the outcome, saying that the Republicans' majority ended the Democrats' confirmation blockade by confirming quality nominees. Yesterday, they confirmed more than 24 ambassadors, over a dozen U.S. attorneys, and several assistant secretaries across departments, including Treasury, Interior, Energy, and War. Also, it was confirmed that Paul Atkins will stay on as Security and Exchange Commission chair until 2031, and that Brittany Panuccio will join the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission as its newest commissioner. With Panuccio's confirmation, Republicans now hold the majority at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and this will clear the way for the Trump administration to scrap DEI programs that it says have gone too far and to scale back gender identity protections in favor of biological sex. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Chair Andrea Lucas, who was reappointed in July, is already moving on President Trump's civil rights directives. She has started probing private institutions that are accused of pushing discriminatory DEI programs. So the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which was created in 1964 to fight workplace discrimination, now has 2 Republican members and a third is Democrat. President Trump also fired 2 Democrats recently before their terms ended, which sparked a lawsuit and criticism from Senate Democrats who said that it undermined the balance of the commission. And in other news regarding the Trump administration's support for the military, yesterday, House Speaker Mike Johnson said that he's open to passing legislation during the government shutdown in order to ensure military members and Federal Aviation Administration air traffic controllers don't miss their next paychecks. At yesterday's press conference with Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Speaker Johnson said that he's open to the idea since they've done it before. He stressed that they wanted to ensure troops would get paid.
Leader Thune just mentioned, this gets very real. Checks to our troops will be held up October 15th if they don't come in here tomorrow and vote to reopen the government. You have to get it resolved by October 13th, which is Monday, in order to process those checks. I come from a big military district. I have Barksdale Air Force Base. The Home Global Strike Command is there. I have Fort Polk, the Joint Readiness Training Center. We have young airmen and soldiers deployed around the world right now defending our freedom. And they've left their young families at home. They're dependent upon that check on October 15th.
Yesterday, we reported that the FAA is facing staffing shortages across the system, forcing it to slow air traffic at multiple airports to ensure safety during the ongoing shutdown. Also, the FAA employees remain unpaid. And Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned that controllers would miss their first paycheck on October 14th if the shutdown continues. And there are also other programs that are under threat because of the shutdown. One of them is the Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, the WIC, that could run out of federal funding very soon because of the shutdown. The program provides nutritional support and education for about 6.8 million low-income pregnant and postpartum women, infants, and children younger than 5 years old. Speaker Johnson also mentioned this program yesterday.
Women, infants, and children nutrition programs, that's suspended as well. Why? Because Chuck Schumer wants to play political games. I do not understand it. I hope every journalist here listening today will go and demand him to do the right thing. Ask him the question, why are you doing it? He has no justification. They have created a distraction. They're trying to pretend this is about a end-of-the-year policy decision on health care, and it is not. It's a clean, simple CR. Let's keep the government open so that we can do this work and continue those debates.
In response, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed yesterday that the Trump administration will use tariff revenue to continue funding the WIC or the WIC program during the shutdown. Leavitt wrote on X that President Donald Trump and the White House have identified a creative solution to transfer resources from Section 232 tariff revenue to this critical program. The Section 232 tariff revenue comes from the 50% tariffs imposed on aluminum and steel imports. So how does WIC work exactly? WIC, which was launched as a pilot in 1972, now provides nutrition assistance and education to nearly 7 million low-income, pregnant, and postpartum women, infants, and children under 5. At the federal level, WIC is run by the USDA's Food and Nutrition Service, and unlike Medicare and Medicaid, which have guaranteed funding by law, WIC relies on annual congressional appropriations that are distributed through USDA grants to each state. It operates through 88 state agencies that serve all 50 states, along with Washington, D.C., 32 tribal organizations in 5 territories. The USDA says that states manage the program through nonprofits and local health centers that distribute food vouchers, infant formula, breastfeeding support, and health screening. WIC supported roughly 4 in 10 U.S. infants last year, costing the government about $7.2 billion, and that spending authority expired on September 30th as the shutdown started on October 1st. Meanwhile, today, the Senate again failed to advance bills that would restore funding for the government and end the shutdown. This marks the 6th time that both bills had been defeated in the upper chamber. Yesterday, the Pentagon confirmed that Texas National Guard troops arrived in Illinois to protect federal personnel and property from anti-immigration protests. Pentagon officials said that 200 guardsmen had been mobilized for an initial period of 60 days. The move followed Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's announcement that more special operation forces were heading to Illinois after federal agents were boxed in and rammed by 10 cars. Yesterday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott posted on X saying the elite Texas National Guard are on the ground and ready to go. But in response, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson repeated yesterday that he believes the deployment is illegal, unconstitutional, dangerous, and wrong. And the Coalition Against the Trump Agenda, the CATA, which is a Chicago-based activist group, planned an emergency protest in downtown Chicago for this afternoon. Hatem Abudaya, who is the spokesperson for CATA, said in a statement that the group stands united in fighting back against President Donald Trump's racist and white supremacist attacks on our community. He also said, our communities here, especially Mexicanos, Central Americanos, and Black people, are organizing, resisting, and mobilizing in mass numbers for protests, community education, and Know Your Rights presentations. Meanwhile, FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche toured the Chicago field office yesterday morning. Patel explained why the FBI needs to flex resources in order to help the DHS. Nearly 5% of Chicago's residents, approximately 110,000 people, are active gang members.
Taking the juggernaut that is demolishing the weaponization of law enforcement and bringing it to places like Chicago. When I was there today with Todd, we learned that the Chicago city streets have 110,000 gang members. That's right. You heard me right. They had 1,200 shootings this year alone, 360 homicides. When politicians choose to side with those metrics and not their citizenry, thank God we have President Trump and this Department of Justice and this FBI going in there and crushing violent crime. And President Trump sent us into these cities quietly to set the stage, to set up for the National Guard, to see the success that we saw in Washington, D.C., in Memphis. The FBI has been leading the charge in every single one of these streets because we know how to gather ground-level intelligence, and we know how to put handcuffs on the bad guys, and we know that we have the backing of this administration. And most importantly, the agents at the FBI know that they have the backing of the American people and their government.
Patel also said that the campaign extends far beyond immigration. It includes tackling drug networks, threats to officials, and attacks on agents. And the FBI announced that it, along with the Los Angeles Police Department, the LAPD, raided a Mexican mafia-linked gang in Southern California, and they arrested more than a dozen individuals in connection with the organization. The FBI said that the Rancho San Pedro gang is one of the most violent gangs in the LA Harbor area. After years of joint investigation with the LAPD and Homeland Security, dozens of members who are tied to drug trafficking and other crimes were taken down. The FBI said that 8 out of 14 suspects are now in custody, with 5 more facing state charges in California following the gang bust. Today, President Trump held a roundtable at the White House that began at 3 p.m. with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, FBI Director Kash Patel, Attorney General Pam Bondi, along with independent journalists, discussing the strategy to dismantle Antifa and their personal experiences of being on the streets and being confronted with the violence of Antifa face to face.
It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, and I've heard a lot about them for 10 years. And other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign of violence against ICE agents and other officials charged with enforcing federal law. In Chicago, anarchists have surveilled at least 4 local ICE facilities and posted diagrams of the buildings online, meaning nothing but bad, accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that they're targeting, one in particular who's a top person and a great patriot. In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck. And in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful.
President Trump also said that his administration is going to be far more threatening to them than they were with us.
The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for nearly a decade. At universities, Antifa has organized riotous mobs to attack campus speakers. I see it all the time. And these are agitators, anarchists, and they're paid. And you'll find that out. You'll be finding it out very soon. You should see what we have on these people. These are bad people. These are people that want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen. They've used armed gangs to assault local police in cities nationwide, and they've attacked journalists reporting on their crimes. So the journalists that report on their crimes, don't worry, you're very safe. I hope that's not going to turn you around, but they have been very threatening to people, but we're going to be very threatening to them, far more threatening to them than they ever were with us, and that includes the people that fund them.
Kash Patel also vowed to find every single seed, money, donor, organization, and funding mechanism behind Antifa.
What we are doing at the FBI is simple. It does not require rocket science. We are following the money. Money never lies. And that's what it's going to take to bring down this network of organized criminal thugs, gangbangers, and yes, domestic terrorists, because that's what they are. They are harming everyday citizens in every single one of our communities. And the folks you see here on the right and left, they're some of the bravest men and women we have today. They're reporting the stories live time because the mainstream media won't cover it. They're putting their lives on the line. They're standing up for the flag. The least we can do is stand up for them. So you have my thanks. I read more of your stories than I do theirs because you guys are putting out the truth. And we deserve a country where you are protected as equally as they are. We, in this FBI, will go after with the criminals with a vengeance. We will not rest until we find every single seed, money, donor, organization, and funding mechanism that we have. And I want to echo the Secretary's comments on Scott Bessent, who's allowing us to map out these networks through their financial criminal activities, which has been going on for decades. And I would like to remind the American public, they built this disease temple of corruption over decades. And in 8 short months, Mr. President, you have crippled their foundation.
Today, in an update on the ongoing indirect Gaza peace talks between Israeli and Hamas officials in Egypt, Hamas said that lists of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners that are to be released under a swap deal were exchanged. Day 3 of negotiations concluded in Egypt, with Hamas saying that its team showed positivity and responsibility to move closer to a final agreement. They added that the talks, with delegations from Egypt, the United States, and Qatar acting as intermediaries, are focused on mechanisms to end the war. These mechanisms include Israeli forces withdrawing from the Gaza Strip and a hostage prisoner exchange. Hamas also said that mediators are making great efforts to remove any obstacles to implement a ceasefire, and everyone is optimistic. And the Qatari Foreign Ministry said yesterday that the talks focused on identifying the obstacles to carrying out President Trump's plan and working out its practical details. European and Arab state leaders have also supported President Trump's peace plan. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadafel met with his Egyptian counterpart yesterday to discuss Gaza. Wadafel urged leaders to seize the momentum around Gaza's peace plan. He said that trust will only grow if early hope turns into real action. Yesterday marked the second anniversary of the October 7th attack in which Hamas-led terrorists killed about 1,200 people and seized 251 hostages in southern Israel, and that attack triggered Israel's ongoing military campaign in Gaza. Yesterday, President Trump welcomed Adan Alexander to the Oval Office to honor the anniversary. He is the last American hostage who was freed from Hamas. Alexander is a dual citizen from New Jersey. He was held captive for 584 days before President Trump secured his release in May. President Trump also met with the family of Omer Nutra, whose body remains in Gaza. At the Kennedy Center, top U.S. officials gathered with Israeli hostage survivors to mark the anniversary. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reaffirmed America's support for Israel, and he described President Trump's peace plan as a historic opportunity for lasting peace. And today, during the roundtable at the White House, President Trump also said that a peace deal is very close and that he may depart on Saturday to attend the peace talks in Egypt.
Peace for the Middle East, it's a beautiful phrase, and we hope it's going to come true, but it's very close. Negotiations are going along very well. We're dealing with Hamas and many of the countries. As you know, we have all of the Muslim countries are included, all of the Arab countries are included. Nothing like that's happened before. And our final negotiation, as you know, is with Hamas, and it seems to be going well. So we'll let you know. If that's the case, we'll be leaving probably on Sunday, maybe Saturday, maybe a little later than Saturday evening, but that seems to be our schedule.
Japan is poised to have its first female prime minister soon. On October 4th, former Minister of Economic Security Sanaya Takaichi was elected as the 29th president of the Liberal Democratic Party. This marks the first time in the party's history since its founding in 1955 that a woman has assumed the presidency. Given Japan's patriarchal cultural context and the overwhelming male legislators within the Liberal Democratic Party, the election of a female president has been hailed by the media as breaking the glass ceiling and marking a historic turning point. According to Japanese parliamentary procedures, the Congress will convene a prime ministerial nomination meeting on October 15th. Should opposition parties fail to unite behind a single candidate, Takeichi would become Japan's first female leader. Dubbed Japan's Iron Lady, this politician has drawn widespread attention both domestically and internationally for her staunch conservative stance and her extensive political experience. Then, Takeichi would be Japan's first female prime minister in history. The fact that she was elected signifies not merely a change in prime ministers, but a major shift in Japanese politics. So, who is Sanae Takeichi? Sanae Takeichi was born on March 7, 1961 in Nara Prefecture, Japan. She came from an ordinary background with no family members in politics. Her father was a salaried employee and her mother was a policewoman. This makes her a unique figure within the Liberal Democratic Party, where hereditary politicians predominate. Her life journey has been marked by both unconventionality and diversity. She recalled her mother often telling her, "Be like a deep red rose, possess both beauty and thorns." She later adopted this phrase as her personal motto. She spent her childhood in modest circumstances, yet she displayed an early passion for independence and self-expression. During her time at secondary school, she was obsessed with rock music and played the drums in her school band. She played with such intensity that she frequently broke drumsticks and always carried several spares. She adored the British heavy metal band Iron Maiden. Later, she joked in an interview, "I didn't just admire one Iron Maiden, I also admired Margaret Thatcher." As well as music, she loves driving and motor vehicles. Her beloved Toyota Supra sports car is preserved in the museum in Nara. It is these experiences that have shaped her resilience and unconventional personality. After graduating from high school, Takeichi enrolled in the Department of Business Administration at Kobe University, majoring in business mathematics. To cover her tuition, she worked part-time jobs to make ends meet. She also frequently traveled alone on her motorcycle. She loves motorcycles. To this day, many photos of her with motorcycles circulate online in Japan. Her journey around Japan gave her a profound understanding of the hardships faced by ordinary people and the instability of life. It was this experience that later sparked her deep interest in politics for small and medium-sized enterprises and regional revitalization. After graduating in 1984, Takeichi joined the Panasonic Political and Economic Academy, which was founded by the entrepreneur Konosuke Matsushita. Although she had initially only intended to study business management, she was deeply captivated by the political education offered there. She once had a private audience with Matsushita himself. He told her the nation also needs management principles. This statement marked the beginning of her political career. In 1987, she was assigned to work in the office of Democratic Congresswoman Patricia Schroeder in the U.S. Congress. This period coincided with the peak of U.S.-Japan trade friction, and Schroeder was a politician known for her criticism of Japan. During this time, Takeichi noticed that Americans often confused languages and cuisines of Japan, China, and Korea, lumping them together as one. She drew a profound conclusion from this. Unless Japan can defend itself, its fate will forever be at the mercy of shallow American public opinion. This insight shaped the strong and nationalist conservative themes that would define her future political career. After returning to Japan in 1989, she taught at Japan Economic Junior College, where she lectured on international business management. Sanae Takeichi's career path was very different from that of most Japanese women. She worked as a news anchor at both TV Asahi and Fuji Television, alongside Renho, who was also a news anchor at the time, and later became a politician with the Constitutional Democratic Party. Her experience in front of the camera honed her language skills and sense of pacing, making her one of few politicians who can navigate the sensibilities of the media during parliamentary debates with ease. The actual turning point came in the late 1990s. In 1992, she ran as an independent candidate in the Senate election but lost. Undeterred, she stood again the following year, winning a seat in the House of Representatives with the highest vote count in Nara Prefecture. And she entered Congress alongside Shinzo Abe. In 1996, she joined the Liberal Democratic Party and entered the Saiwa Policy Research Institute, formerly the Abe faction. She became one of Abe's closest disciples. She later recalled, "We discussed history education, the Constitution, and national defense together. It was Abe who enlightened me to my political ideals." Abe recognized her political views and ability to execute, viewing her as a rising star among conservatives. She subsequently established herself as a leading figure within the conservative camp by taking clear stances on defense, constitutional reform, and traditional values. She subsequently held several key positions, including Minister of Internal Affairs and Communications, chairperson of the Policy Research Council, and minister responsible for economic security. She is one of the few female politicians in Japan to have experience in both the executive and legislative branches. Shinzo Abe had repeatedly praised her publicly as the most likely woman to become Japan's first female prime minister. For her, Abe was not only a mentor, but also a symbol of political conviction. She has embraced his proactive pacifism and security realism, adopting a hardline stance on foreign affairs, security, and historical recognition issues. Now, as Sanai Takaichi stands on the brink of becoming Japan's first female prime minister, could her conservatism and independence win her the alliances that are needed to lead her in Japan's male-dominated political arena? We'll discuss this in detail in part 2 of our in-depth report tomorrow. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.